AITA for screwing over all the people who donated their time and money? The PTA has been planning a fundraiser for months to raise money for new cheerleader uniforms. The old uniforms are very outdated, and all the kids are excited about getting new ones, including mine. Early in the planning I agreed that my property could be used at no cost for the event, and that I would provide all the furnishing. Other people worked hard on buying, making items to be sold at the fundraiser. Some people spent upwards of hundreds of hours and/or dollars for the event. At a recent meeting, the football coach said the equipment was badly worn out and needed to be replaced ASAP. A vote was held, and the majority voted that this fundraiser would be for the football team instead of the cheerleaders. I was pissed. Football is always the top priority. I went above and beyond here specifically to help out the cheerleading team. My child and all their friends on the team got their hopes up only to be dashed. I told everyone my property would no longer be available for use, and they would need to find a new venue. People panicked and got very angry, including several people who voted against the change. They said my decision was equivalent to throwing all their hard work in the trash. I asked them how they thought the cheerleaders would feel. They said it was a vote, and I was acting like a dictator, that I can't overrule the will of the majority. I said they can do what they like, but not on my property. I know they won't be able to find a venue this late, especially not at an affordable price. I understand I screwed over my friends, burned bridges, and am likely going to be kicked off the PTA. I just can't bring myself to help them. Am I a spiteful asshole?
NTA, you agreed to host a fundraiser for the cheerleaders, not the football team. They changed the conditions, and they can live with the consequences.
NTA, you intended to host an event for cheerleading and not football. Now that the event priorities have changed, your space is no longer available. If they can change the reason for the fundraiser, you can decide to back out of loaning your space.
NTA, this was a bait and switch. You agreed to having a fundraiser for the cheerleaders at your property, not the football team.
Entire time to go commando and do a private fundraiser because they're just gonna keep pushing the cheerleaders aside for the sports.
NTA, they should hold a separate event for the football team. It's crappy that football is placed above any other activity in school.
NTA, they can hold the event at the school for free.
It may look like an move, but it's not. The agreement was fundraising for cheerleaders on your property free of cost. PTA knowingly took an vote to destroy the hopes of a team in favor of another. That's your property. You can do as you please and no one has the right to judge. NTA.
NTA, it's like they did a bait and switch on the cheerleaders, including your kid. Nothing wrong with you changing your mind since someone else changed their mind and moved football in from to the previously planned fundraiser for the cheerleaders.
NTA. You agreed to let them use your property for a fundraiser that would directly benefit school activities that your family is involved in. It is completely delusional of others to think that you would continue to host the fundraiser when the fundraiser was altered to no longer benefit school activities that your family is involved in.
Maybe they can have the fundraiser on the football field?
NTA 1. You were doing what you were for the cheerleaders too. They are massively over the cheerleaders 3. This should never have gone for another vote. The perceived less important thing always gets. 4. You were right, that's exactly how the cheerleaders would feel. 5. Let them find another venue. You were doing this for the cheerleaders. 6. Good for you.
Nope, and good for you. You did all the work but the football players needed more. Was a disgraceful move by the coach, and you don't have to go along with it. Your property, your conditions. NTA. Force the idiots to reverse their decision and give the money where it belongs.
NTA. I would make it clear that the use of your property and the furnishings were your donation to the cheerleading team. As the fundraiser is no longer for this same team, your donation is not applicable.
What galls me is that they don't consider cheerleading a sport. Those kids have more strength, agility and focus than any football player. With the added bonus of worse and more frequent NTA. Stick to your guns and maybe call the school district to see if the bait and switch they pulled is following protocol or legal. They may not actually be permitted to do it, and unless you hold a chair on the PTA committee they cannot kick you out.
High school. It's a small school, so everything is through the PTA.
A dictator would more likely force someone to give up their property to the majority rather than allowing her to have her private rights. So yeah, dumb comment on part of the PTA member.
When donating to charity, The charity legally has to use the funds for exactly what they said they'd use them for. This situation is different, but the same principle applies. OP offered to help with a cheerleading fundraiser, not a football fundraiser.
What I don't get is, if parents are spending hundreds to build things for the fundraiser, why not just outright compile the cash and buy them? That all said, football is always priority. I live in TX and it is one of the main reasons I ended up resigning from my last district.
Yeah, now that it's surprisingly turned into a well-organized event, the football team could make better use of it. Face with rolling eyes.
This is it exactly. I went to a high school that constantly over women's sports, especially cheerleading, in favor of the football team. Every time, the excuse was that they make more money off the football. It was dehumanizing as and didn't stop until the parents raised a massive fuss. Good for you, and give them ETA. Thank you all for adding your stories here in response. You all absolutely could have gone to my high school. Shout out to the cheerleaders, dance team, the band, and color guard. I see you all. See your state and national titles. See your dedication.
Make sure that the cheerleaders know why you've pulled out. Make sure they tell the football boys. Given their age, most of them will think with their dicks and complain that their potential girlfriends got over. Or see if you can convince the cheerleaders to do the next game in potato sacks with the cheer that states the PTA stole their funding.
You can't help but wonder if this was the plan all, because, obviously, it.
Fundraiser here. There's a thing called donor intent, and you offered up your home understanding that the fundraiser would support the cheerleaders. Once they changed the designation of funds, you were no longer obliged to host. The football coach didn't know they needed new equipment, or did he decide it was urgent once he saw the potential of the fundraiser?
Absolutely this. NTA. They probably see this as you taking your ball and going home. They are wrong. This has nothing to do with your role as a PTA member. It has to do with your separate role as a donor to the of your donation of the property as engaging in a contract. Basics of a contract. Offer, consideration, acceptance. You offered to donate your property to be used for a fundraiser for the cheerleading squad. They accepted, changing the fundraiser to be for the football team. Changes the terms. The original contract is void and they are essentially making a counter offer. A new contract has to be agreed to. You've decided you don't want to accept the new terms they've offered. You aren't interested in donating to a fundraiser for the football team. Great. Everyone shakes hands and parts ways. Just very calmly and coolly state, I agreed to donate to a fundraiser for the cheerleading squad. I'm not interested in hosting a fundraiser for the football team. You weren't on the PTA board and just a donor who said this to them. They'd realize. They were the ones who up.
Most of us in the good old US of a holes don't understand what dictatorship is.
I read a book about education around the world, and they made the point that the US is the only country that would pick a math teacher based on his ability to coach football as opposed to his ability to teach math. That stuck with.
The cheerleaders protesting at a game in potato sacks is such a cool scene.
A dictatorship is when I don't get what I want. That PTA member, probably.
Greater than I went to a high school that constantly over women's sports, greater than especially cheerleading, in favor of the football. Football was king at my HS, so they got all the attention and the money and everyone else got scraps. The nice thing about going to a college that didn't have a football team is that everything felt more equitable among all the different sports because football wasn't all the air out of the room.
I actually had to take a walk around my house after reading OP's post because it me off so much. Yet another school organization being over in favor of that school's football team. I hope the cheerleaders refuse to go to the football games next season because of this.
In my high school, the football coach was the social studies teacher, history, geography. With one exception, those were the most boring, least informative classes I had in high. One exception. When we had a student teacher one semester, she taught us a lot and was super engaging, while coach sat in back and read the newspaper.
He decided it was urgent once he saw the potential of the fundraiser. It wasn't a priority to him before then, or he would have organized his own fundraiser.
That was my exact thinking. Why was this ever even considered as an option? What kind of gall does this football coach have to think he could jump in the middle of an already planned fundraiser and ask them to redirect the funds? The football team can plan and run their own fundraiser, I'm sure.
This is some entitled, sexist. I'm pretty sure most of the hard work of the PTA members was done by the fathers do a bake sale for the football equipment.
Because guys playing football always gets favored over girls cheerleading. Not just at Ops Kids School, but all over the US. It's probably been allowed in the past, so why would it have changed now?
I always wondered that if the football team made so much money, why wasn't it self-supporting? Even if it was, high school is not supposed to be a capital enterprise. It is supposed to aid in educating and strengthening all of its students.